Even as Reliance and Disney, that joined ranks recently, give shape to India's largest media and entertainment company, another deal between two other mega conglomerates has been brewing for the last few months. The Tata and Bharti groups are finalizing a merger between their direct-to-home or DTH businesses. Now, this is a deal in a space that the world has been ditching for the last several years. Yes, cord-cutting is the biggest, most enduring trend in entertainment consumption across the world as people discard set-top boxes for streamed television. Now, naturally, both entities in question are in losses. That's Airtel Digital TV, housed in Bharti Telemedia Limited, which is wholly owned by Bharti Airtel, and Tata Play, 70% owned by Tata Group, 30% by, surprise, surprise, Disney. Both are in losses. In fact, every DTH operator in India except Airtel saw an actual shrinkage in revenue last year. So, what does this deal do? It creates an entity where Airtel will own 52% and Tata the rest. It will give both entities a combined subscriber base of 35 million. But is that it? Or are there more sides to the coming together of these two entities? What does it do for Tata's presence in the media distribution segment, and how does it tie in to Airtel's ambitions of enhancing its broadband network? Most critically, will it salvage the floundering DTH businesses for these two entities? I try to unravel all this with my colleague and co-host Arijit Burman, ET's M&A guru, who, with Javed Farooqi and Kala Vijay Raghavan, was the first to write this story. Listen on, it's Friday, the 28th of February. I'm your host Anirban Chaudhary, and this is the Morning Brief. Hi Arijit, very warm welcome to the Morning Brief. Good to have you as a guest after a while, quite a while actually.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be back. After all, it's our favorite podcast.
I certainly hope so, and thank you so much for saying that. Okay, we are talking about a deal that you actually broke, and it got confirmed recently by the two entities that we are talking about. This is the coming together of the DTH businesses of Tata and Airtel. Now, my first question to you actually is, why is such a deal significant in a space which so many people are ditching?
Well, Anirban, firstly, let me quickly clarify that it was a group effort. We first did the story in October when talks had begun. Subsequently, we did another story just earlier this week, predominantly because things have crystallized a lot more. There is a more or less structure in place. Now, to answer your question, why are they doing this? Simply because in this business, there are more headwinds than there are tailwinds. There are people, and there's a whole generation of viewers who are actually cutting the cord and migrating straight to digital platforms for video, audio consumption and live streaming. So DTH, which was the technology a few years back, and actually that's the beauty of technology. It keeps getting disrupted. It keeps evolving. So both Airtel and Tata Play, they are clearly the number one and number two player. Airtel number two, Tata's number one. Both loss-making, although despite a head start, Tata Play's losses have actually mounted. So for Tata's, just like telecom, they want to get out of whatever they feel are drag to the overall group's total bandwidth. They don't want to be in a place on a standalone basis where there is so much of headwinds, so much of investments that's required. If you are a telco, it still makes some sense because at the end of the day, you want value added services for your customers. The non-mobile contribution for Airtel today is 22%. In a country where the average revenue per user, or ARPU, is one of the lowest in the world, it has seen a 70% spurt in the last 5 years, but still at 209 rupees for Airtel, it is still very low. So you need to bring in additional services, whether it's finance, whether it's broadband, whether it's DTH, to offer what we call bundled services. So scale, and for Airtel, a bundled offering is what's driving this entire mega merger.
Right, right. And that's some great insight. But then we also need some color from you as always, because no one chronicles deal BTS stories as well as you do. So how did these two entities come together? This, I mean, to me, with my limited understanding, this seems to be a marriage of compulsion and not even convenience. But tell me.
Well, if you remember, one of the first transaction that Chandrasekaran did when he took over as the Tata Group boss was he sold his telecom company to Bharti, which was again a loss-making entity, a loss-making business, which was dragging the consolidated balance sheet, highly leveraged business, also capex heavy business. So, and Bharti literally bailed them out. Since then, they have a good working relationship. The group CFO of Tata Sons, Saurav Agarwal, he's a former telecom media technology banker who's also instrumental in the Vodafone Idea merger, when he was a key player, a key lieutenant to Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla. He's now a key lieutenant of Mr. Chandrasekaran, and is the chairman of the DTH company, Tata Play. So as Tata Play has been seeing the exit of key players or key partners with whom it started this DTH endeavor in the first place, I guess Tata's made the outreach, and who better than the number two player? I mean, obviously when number one and number two plan to merge, there's obviously the question of market share, but it is still a 4-player market. Tata's control 32% of the market. Bharti very close at 29%. Airtel is willing to do the capex, which Tatas aren't. But mind you, Tatas aren't exiting. They are merging, and in return, they will get shares. So this is how it evolved. What we learn is talks have been on since late last year, and now things are finally fructifying.
Who's the bigger winner from this deal? Is it Bharti, which is still growing, or Tata, the number one, but whose numbers have been falling clearly?
I would say Tata's for sure, because they don't have to run the business separately anymore. What we believe, Airtel will be running the show, the management, that is. Tata's may have some board representation, but Airtel clearly is still in the space of, telecom, media, and therefore media not as a content creator, but more from a distribution point of view. They have broadband, they have DTH, they also have cloud, other than other value-added services like financial services, data centers, etc., etc. So, who gains more? I guess both of them will gain, because Airtel will also get access to a significant consumer base. I mean, 19 million homes is what Airtel will get. And some of those 19 million homes, some industry chatter says that can be potentially converted into broadband or connected homes. So I guess it's a win-win for both, because scale is what is required. If you don't have scale, you perish.
Got it. Okay. Interesting bit about Tata Play's structure and its genesis, which makes Disney a part of this somehow. And it has been wanting to exit the DTH business completely, but it can't. It will still have shares in the combined entity, as you wrote in the story. Why don't you explain that to me, and where do you see it going?
Yes, Disney inherited this investment. Actually, the original investment was when Tata's actually did a deal with Rupert Murdoch, and it was Tata Sky originally. And from there, we saw that the entire Fox empire was bought over by Disney. And through that international acquisition, they got hold of this investment. It's a 30% stake. The initial plan that Disney had was that you IPO this business and you get an exit. And then you also have a liquid stock, which will help you to exit maybe much more easily over a certain period of time. But yes, the valuation of Tata Play has been going down. For example, another investor who was there in Tata Play was Temasek from Singapore, a long-time ally of the Tata Group. They exited, Tata's bought them out, and at a $3 billion valuation. IPO was also supposed to be at $1 billion plus valuation. So already we saw, a sharp write down or melt down in terms of the valuation. Disney nowhere in the world is in the distribution business. So therefore, it wanted to get out. But at this moment, I don't think anyone, whether it's Airtel or it's Tata's, they would like to pay cash and see Disney exit. So yes, it's a bit of a khichdi because Disney, on the other hand, has a tie-up with Reliance that we saw.
Correct.
A mega multi-billion dollar empire was created, India's largest entertainment company with huge revenues that took shape last year. So ideally, Disney wanted to get out, but I don't think their existing partner or even Airtel, who's likely to be the new partner, is in any mood to actually pay them off through cash. So therefore, the other currency is stock. So you get stock of a bigger entity, larger entity. Maybe the financial health will improve. Maybe as Airtel, brings in a more, as I said, the bundled service offerings. This is another case where you see lines blurring. The definition of a media company, a telecom company, a technology company, these are blurring. So Disney, let's wait and watch. I mean, things are still evolving, but what we know as of now, in the merger, Airtel, DTH, in the combined entity will get around 51 to around 55%, and the rest will go to the shareholders of Tata Play, which is namely Tata Sons and Disney. Disney has a 30% stake now in Tata Play. So what they will get in the combined entity is 30% of that 45 or 48% that Tata Play will get in the combined entity. So their shareholding will come down, but they still stay on, at least linger on.
Right. You mentioned the Reliance Disney deal. Now, a broader question to sort of bring this conversation to an end. Purely and you said lines are blurring between, and rightly so, between telecom, media, etc. Purely as a battle between three huge conglomerates, Reliance, Airtel and Tata, and Reliance supremacy in this space is now complete with Disney and the kind of user base it has with Jio. How do you see this panning out? Do you see Tata and Airtel sort of collecting the scraps to sort of salvage that business, whereas the largest part of it is already with another bigger entity? How do you see this in the next 2-3 years?
Well, it's not really an apple-to-apple comparison because we're talking about media distribution or content distribution. That's very different from the Reliance Disney deal, which the bedrock of which is content. Airtel thus far has made it very clear they don't want to get into content because content rarely makes money. The investments required to produce or create content and the ability to monetize that is not that simple. And I wouldn't say that, it's Airtel's, lost the plot or lost the game. They've come back remarkably. In fact, despite the skepticism that had crept in, I would say they have actually performed a lot better than Jio in the last few months, last few quarters. Their ARPUs have grown 70%. And, they are, as I said, they have 352 million mobile subscribers. This is September 24 data. They have 30 million homes in terms of broadband and DTH, they are actually giving Jio a run for their money. So I don't think it's that easy for anyone, even Jio, to write them off. And as I said, the Airtel strategy has been to increase their non-mobile customer base from 22%. And look, see, even their broadband subscription, that base has been growing from, the market size is around 53 million total, and which is expected around FY26. 40 million is what the figure is at FY24. Now, their clear and stated goal of Airtel is to ramp up broadband and what is loosely called bundled offerings. So this will certainly help. Reliance is in content as well as in distribution. Airtel is in distribution, other than, of course, being a telco, just like Jio. And it is not into content. So I don't think it's fair to compare the two. I think we are going to see some very interesting battle play out, as to use a cliche, picture abhi bhi baki hai.
Arijit, thank you so much for that conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's it for today. You were listening to this episode on The Morning Brief. It was produced by me and Surohini Jain, sound designed by Amrit Redji. Listen to a new episode of TMB every Tuesday, Thursday and Friday on a listening platform of your choice. Have a good weekend.